So you guys know that I've talked before about some of the things I think Democrats screwed up on during this election season in the last couple of years. Never let your opponent be the one to define you. And Democrats let Trump and MAGA define them. And they did this by getting very involved in and taking the bait on the issue of drag queens and transgender kids, to the point where Democrats, of course, they wanted to defend the most vulnerable, the people who were being attacked. But it got to the point where that type of responding was defining the party. Okay. That was a mistake. Just as it was a mistake to let Republicans define Democrats by the border. You know, there was this bipartisan bill. Republicans were on board with Democrats on a border bill. And it was Trump who knew it was a good bill. And so he ordered all the Democrats or all the Republicans to not vote for it, to not support it, because that would take away his big issue, one of his big issues for the election. And somehow Democrats didn't really know how to fight back on that. Maybe because it was too little too late. I don't know. They could have seen it coming with polling. The border has long been an issue, but then it became the defining issue. The Democrats needed to recognize this and do something about it. Actually, when Trump was running the first time. So they kind of missed the boat on that a little bit. With regard to drag queens and transgender, now remember, we've talked about this before. Republicans used to try and use homosexuality as a wedge issue to keep the evangelicals, those family groups, as we used to call them, in the coalition, because they were not naturally an obvious member of the GOP coalition. But Newt Gingrich was able to put together this coalition in order to win that first historic GOP House majority in the mid-90s. It hadn't happened in, 40 whatever years. So that's what they had to do. And somehow they got a bigger seat or more seats at the table after that, growing into this mess that we are now. So the gay issue no longer works because no one cares. Most people are tolerant. They're pro-gay marriage. They don't want gay people to be harassed or have their civil rights in any way, shape, or form affected. So society has changed. So Republicans had to up the ante. So now they moved to drag queen story hour and then transgender kids. Now, Democrats, of course, like I said, they wanted to defend the transgender community, and especially kids who were going to be really unfairly targeted. And that's just sort of the natural reaction. But from a strategic political communication standpoint, it meant that they were falling into the trap, because that's what scared a lot of people, was this whole scary transgenders, because it's something they don't understand. It's still a relatively new enough issue in terms of our public debate or lexicon or people's lives. And here's the other thing. This was a study in the JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and I think this was last summer, said it was a new study on gender-affirming surgeries for people under the age of 18 in the U.S., and it revealed that of the 150, yes, it really is that small, of the 150 gender-affirming surgeries for people under 18, 146 of them were for cisgender males getting gynecomastia, I can't pronounce it, surgery. And that's breast reductions, because some boys, when they get to puberty, they get excess breast tissue and it's embarrassing to them. And so they can go and have that taken care of. They are not switching genders. It is not that at all. So when you look at how small that number is, literally 4 people who got that surgery, who had that surgery, are the people that Trump defined the Democratic Party, the entire Democratic Party. So we were talking about that rather than the fact that starting here in literally 2 weeks, and because of Joe Biden, Medicare now has a $2,000 annual cap on prescription out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs for people. That is something that is a game changer for so many people, because there was that donut hole thing, where you went from your regular drugs, and then that there's like a $7,000, there's many $1,000 gap until you hit catastrophic, which would be covered. So that donut hole situation being resolved is a game changer for untold millions of people and on into the future. We weren't talking about that. The media wasn't talking about that. I blame the media a lot, but you do have to try. Like the Democrats do have to try, and you can have an impact if you fight hard enough to make sure that the media is talking about the things you want them to talk about. And one of the ways to do that is you need to be talking about it. You need to make it an issue. And the fact that there's the $35 insulin price. And I think the inhalers for asthma were also affected. These are things that are saving people in this country thousands of dollars a year. Again, game changers, life-changing legislative successes on the part of Joe Biden and the Democrats that matter in real people's lives, sometimes even more than grocery prices. But they weren't really talking about them, not enough. And maybe sometimes it should just be to targeted audiences. But it's, you know, when every conversation in this election was about transgender kids getting these surgeries, and Trump purposely goes out there, makes these outrageous statements talking about kids go to school one gender, come home another. You know, at recess they're getting, well, he knows that's not true, but he also knows that everybody will be talking about these outrageous statements. And then he's talking about the issue that he wants to talk about, which is transgender kids. Yeah. And as long as he makes outrageous statements, we were talking about it. I've been guilty of it too. So he was able to control the agenda. Same with they're eating the cats and the dogs. He knew that something that ridiculous and outrageous meant that everybody would be talking about it. And if everybody, including Democrats, are talking about it, saying, oh my God, that's not true, and he knows it's not true, that means they're not talking about their successes and what they've done to people and for people and what they've done to some of the bad policies of the past. Because if Democrats are taking their time saying, Haitian immigrants are not eating your cats and dogs in Ohio, then you're not talking about the impact of that $2,000 annual cap on prescription drugs out-of-pocket costs for seniors. Because those out-of-pocket prescription drug costs were decimating the finances of so many people at a time in their life where they really couldn't afford it. So this is peace of mind and quality of life. And you could thank Joe Biden and the Democrats for that. I guarantee you, MAGA doesn't even know about it. Because you know what? We didn't talk about it enough. I was laughing and making fun of Trump on they're eating the cats and the dogs. And there was that really hilarious little song going around. And I put it everywhere because it's what we do. But I'm wondering if maybe we could be a little bit more strategic. We also let cable news decide what we were going to be interested in. And I think we know now that that got us nowhere. They should have been talking about Merrick Garland 24/7. They should have been talking about the Democratic and Biden successes. And you can mention the ridiculous cats and dogs issue, but they're eating the cats and the dogs issue, but we shouldn't have been dwelling on it. So in many ways, you know, we helped Trump win by falling into his trap, talking about the issues that he wanted to talk about. And so the reason I brought this up again is because I saw something online about that study, about there was only 150 surgeries that they put under the gender affirming surgery tab. And 146 of them were really just, again, an adolescent boy who has extra breast tissue. I've known kids like that. Friends have had kids like that. And when they can, they go and they have that taken care of because it's terribly embarrassing for the boys. It can cause mental health issues to them, but they are not changing genders. And then I'm thinking, how come I'm only coming across this information now? You know, a month and a half after the election. It would have been nice if I knew about this beforehand and used, whatever platform I have to put that out there so that we could have nipped this thing in the bud. Maybe if media very conclusively, one time, all the big mouths, all the big megaphones said, well, that's not true because it's mostly these boys who are having it. It's not a transgender issue. And just erase it, eliminate it as an issue so that then Democrats could talk about the Biden agenda, the Biden-Harris agenda and what they've done, particularly for seniors with regard to those Medicare out-of-pocket drug costs. Again, huge. Because seniors, they sit there watching Fox News. These old white guys shaking their fists at the migrants coming across the border and wondering, can't wait for Trump to get in so he'll do something about it. They don't know that Trump is the one that stopped Republicans and Democrats from working together on a border bill. They all supported that would have passed until Trump stepped in. These old white guys and their wives, some of them, the white women, half of them, that are at that age where they've got these prescription drugs and they're spending a lot of money on these prescription drugs out of pocket, and they're thinking that Trump is going to take care of it. Trump will take credit for it when this kicks in a couple weeks. They didn't know what Joe Biden had done. Fox News wasn't telling them. Was Joe Rogan? I don't know. I mean, are those guys listening to Joe Rogan? That would be the bro culture. They might not care that much. But, a lot of the people in the Rogan audience, yeah, they've got parents, older relatives who are at that age. And here's the thing. When you reach that age and you need to sign up for your Medicare Part D prescription drug policy, your coverage, maybe you're only on one or two drugs, one prescription. You might be on one prescription. That's the category I fall into. Just one little inexpensive prescription. So you're like, well, thank goodness if something happens to me this year, there's a cap on what I pay out of pocket, where before it was wiping people out. Now that cap is $2,000. You're protected. Each year, you're not going to pay more than that. But as you get older, just like your car, as it gets older, needs upkeep. Yeah, we do too. Things happen. For me, it's my thyroid, hypothyroidism. So I take a little bit of that thyroid drug. But I've had cancer. I'm on no cancer drugs now. I'm healthy. I'm relatively in shape. I try and take care of myself. Sometimes getting sick means that you take better care of yourself. You have to get really sick in order to get really healthy. So for right now, my drug costs are almost nothing. And if I'm lucky, knock wood, it'll stay that way. But for millions of Americans, that simply isn't the case. So just looking at this one policy item of Joe Biden's and the Democrats, the $2,000 annual cap on prescription drugs and Medicare to protect seniors and their families. If you want to leave something to your kids or you don't want to be a burden to your kids, a financial burden, that's huge. And yet we got trapped and roped into talking about transgender kids surgery when it was really just a very small number of mostly boys who needed to have some breast tissue removed because, it was embarrassing. They hit puberty and why not? I mean, that could be, it needed to be done, but it wasn't what MAGA and Trump was representing. And again, here I am doing this stuff every day, and I didn't even know that. So, and I pay attention to stuff, and I'm involved in this. So I'm thinking that was something that everybody should have known, and we could have nipped this in the bud, and we didn't. And I do blame our media, the ones we think are our friends, and we tend to trust some people that we shouldn't. We make media stars and political stars out of people because they were married to somebody famous, and or the guys that are making lots of money by keeping you enraged. And it's easier to keep you enraged and opening your wallets, I guess, if you think we're in it for the fight, if it's about slamming Trump for his statement about eating the cats and the dogs, Haitian migrants eating the cats and the dogs, or transgender kids. So, and the surgeries, these surgeries at recess. Your kids go to school one gender, come back another. How many? He got away with that, saying that so many times because we let him, because we engaged. And the more that we engaged and got riled up over it, the more he did it. He played us. We still haven't learned. We still have not learned. And I don't know what we do about it. Media, I guess we change media, change who we listen to, who we trust. Alternative media. That's why I started this YouTube channel, so we can talk about these things and kind of work them out and strategize in normal people's language, and admit where we screwed up and where we need to do better, where we were blindsided. And so that's why I just focus on one or two things in each of these videos, because I don't, we're not having this whole hours long symposium, but things that we can mull over and think about it and, digest and hopefully change. So that's what happened with the whole transgender kids surgery thing. It was fake. A study came out that I didn't hear about until today. Apparently came out last summer. And it's something that should have been front page news, leading every news, every news show, every podcast, all over social media. And it didn't, because it wasn't sexy and didn't draw eyeballs, didn't get you enraged so that you'd open up the wallets for, the generational wealth guys. So we all need to check ourselves, don't we? We need to do better. We need to stop looking for heroes and start being our own heroes. The executives at MSNBC are not heroes, and they do run things. It's still corporate media. Joe Scarborough still has a show. That tells you everything you need to know. We forget about Fox, although there is a way to put pressure on them. But we do have to do better. And sometimes that means simplifying these messages. Rapid response, yes. But I think that if we had caught on, if I was working for the Democrats at the time and it was my job where I could sit there and really work this through, think this stuff through, strategize, I would have come up with this strategy as soon as it happened, saying, let's do one big, huge wave of killing this whole thing about the transgender kids once and for all, so everybody knows that it's a lie, because we have a study here, we have actual numbers. Kill this once and for all so that it doesn't become the main issue that defines Democrats. Do not let your opponent be the one to define you. Full stop. So we learned our lesson, I guess, too late. And well, I'm not even sure we learned our lesson. I hope we did. We'll do better next time, right? If there is a next time. See you.